Welcome to the www.pnmoneymaking.com Life and Business Solutions, Powerful Tools for Success.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here to dig into all of this with you today.
Yeah, I'm super excited about today's deep dive because we've got a fascinating stack of sources to go through.
We really do.
So just to set the stage for you, the listener, I want you to imagine that you're standing on a factory floor back in like the mid-20th century.
Okay. All right. The classic industrial era.
Exactly. And the rules back then were completely clear, you know. You put in your 40 hours of physical labor, you assemble the parts, and you essentially wait 10 years for a promotion.
Right. And eventually get to retire with a gold watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now imagine applying those exact same physical world rules to the architecture of the modern digital economy.
It just doesn't work.
No, it's like trying to operate a brand new smartphone using the instruction booklet from a manual typewriter.
That is a really great analogy, actually.
Well, today's sources were looking at the architecture of immediate access, the blueprint for personal and national prosperity, and the PN money-making affiliate blueprint.
And they basically argue that this is exactly what most of us are doing with our earning potential right now.
Right. We are applying outdated physics to a completely new universe.
Yeah, the foundational argument across all these texts is that the traditional mechanics of how we generate income, they've been entirely superseded by what they call the frictionless economy.
The frictionless economy. I love that term.
It's very descriptive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the authors are presenting this highly specialized, action-oriented system.
Which is our main mission today, to really deconstruct this system for you.
Exactly. And this system fundamentally divorces the concept of earning from all those traditional prerequisites. You know, things like having massive upfront capital or technical expertise or getting permission from some big institution.
Right, the gatekeepers.
Exactly, the gatekeepers. We are deconstructing how personal development is now being linked directly and immediately to a decentralized monetization network.
Which brings us directly to a huge paradigm shift. We're looking at a model that challenges these deeply ingrained societal instructions that you and I have been fed since day one.
Oh, absolutely. The cultural conditioning is strong.
Right. From a young age, you are handed this very specific algorithm for success. It's always work harder, be patient, and basically wait your turn.
Yeah, the classic wait your turn mindset.
But the sources we are examining today, they argue that this algorithm is not just outdated. They say it is mathematically flawed if it's missing one critical multiplier.
And that multiplier is access.
Access.
Yeah, access. And I think it's important to point out that the blueprints maintain this really highly empowering and positive tone throughout.
They really do. It's very refreshing.
Because they are essentially declaring the end of that gatekeeping we just talked about. The core philosophy here revolves around the systematic removal of all that friction.
So it's about moving away from just consuming information.
Right. The texts are urging you to make a transition. You need to move from passive consumption, like endlessly reading about success or just guessing at market trends, into active, structured implementation.
Where your progress is actually tied to a financial outcome.
Exactly. Progress that pays.
Let's dismantle that wait your turn myth right away, because the sources dedicate a ton of real estate to tearing down this old industrial age mindset.
It's a huge focus of the material.
Yeah, and the specific phrases highlighted in the text, you know, working harder, being patient, they're framed almost as like a psychological pacifier.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Well, we've been taught that effort alone is virtuous, right? But the text argues that blind effort without structural access is merely exhaustion.
It's just spinning your wheels.
Right. I always think of it like running on a treadmill. You are expending a massive amount of physical effort, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but you don't actually change your location in the room.
You're in the exact same spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the authors are exposing a major flaw in the fundamental equation of traditional economics here.
Right, because if effort was a direct one-to-one correlation with wealth, the people doing the most grueling manual labor would be billionaires.
Exactly. In the past, the equation was basically labor plus time equals income. But the blueprints assert that in today's hyper-connected digital landscape, that equation has fundamentally shifted.
So what is the new equation?
It's effort multiplied by access equals income.
Effort multiplied by access.
Yes. And we need to be clear about what access actually means here. Access, in this context, does not just mean having a password to a fancy website.
Right, it's not just logging into a forum.
No, I mean structural integration into a system that already has a verified conversion mechanism. The text frames these blueprints not as just a collection of motivational theories, but as the actual structural scaffolding you need to monetize your digital presence.
And that introduces a massive distinction that the sources draw between action and consumption.
A huge distinction, yeah.
The text explicitly warns against the trap of passive reading. And we see this constantly in the personal development space, don't we?
Oh, all the time. It's an epidemic.
Right. You consume hours of business advice, you read the biographies of famous CEOs, and your brain just releases all this dopamine.
It tricks you into feeling like you've actually accomplished something.
Exactly. You feel highly productive just sitting on your couch. But the blueprint argues that unless that consumption is coupled with immediate real-world application, it's economically useless.
Yeah, the psychological phenomenon you are referring to is often called action faking.
Action faking. Wow, I like that.
Yeah, it's the illusion of progress. And what the authors are doing here is forcing a behavioral shift.
How so?
By directly linking the consumption of these life and business solutions to a built-in affiliate mechanism, they basically collapse the distance between learning and earning.
So you aren't just preparing to do something later.
Right. You are no longer preparing to do business. The actual act of sharing the solution is the business itself.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
If effort alone is insufficient, and this structural access is the key, how does this specific blueprint prevent the exact same paralysis that we see in so many other digital business models?
That's a very fair question.
Because, the internet is just littered with people who gained access to complex e-commerce systems or drop shipping courses, only to be entirely frozen by the sheer volume of variables.
Oh, yeah. A/B testing, pixel tracking, copywriting, funnel building, it's overwhelming.
Exactly. Does the text address the risk of information overload for the user?
It absolutely does, and it addresses it through what I would call rigorous architectural simplification.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, the text explicitly notes that the structure is already working. It completely removes the requirement for the user to engage in any market testing or guesswork.
So the trial and error phase is just gone.
Completely. You see, information overload usually occurs when an individual is forced to build the infrastructure and execute the marketing strategy at the exact same time.
Right, trying to lay the tracks while driving the train.
Exactly. But the blueprint solves this by stripping away the infrastructure building phase entirely. You aren't guessing at what might convert.
You're just following the steps.
You are following a highly constrained, pre-optimized path that is designed for one singular outcome. The complexity has essentially been abstracted away by the system developers.
Leaving the user with only the execution phase.
Exactly. All you have to do is execute.
That is incredibly liberating. So if solving the individual's paralysis is step one, we have to look at what happens when you actually scale that concept up.
Right, moving from the micro to the macro.
Exactly. And this seamlessly brings us to the macro picture outlined in the sources. The blueprint for personal and national prosperity makes a claim that, honestly, caught me entirely off guard.
The part about national development.
Yes, it argues that national development does not originate from government policy, but starts fundamentally at the individual level.
It's a very bold claim.
It is. The text proposes that when you improve, when you as an individual take action, your environment actually follows.
Yeah, that is a fascinating application of decentralized economic theory.
Because we are so culturally conditioned to view prosperity as a top-down macroeconomic phenomenon, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We usually think of prosperity as central banks adjusting interest rates, or massive federal infrastructure spending, or these large-scale institutional shifts.
But the authors of these blueprints present a radically bottom-up model instead.
They really do. They are arguing for the profound multiplier effect of localized individual wealth generation.
But how does that actually manifest in reality? Like, if you, the listener, follow this blueprint today and set up this income stream, how on earth does your individual affiliate link translate to national prosperity?
It's a great question, and it really comes down to two things: economic velocity and psychological modeling.
Okay, let's break those down. Economic velocity first.
Sure. When an individual shifts from being merely a passive consumer to an active earner within this decentralized network, they completely alter the economic microclimate of their immediate community.
Because they have more disposable income?
Right. Their purchasing power increases, which allows them to inject capital back into local services. They buy more at the local grocery store, they hire a local plumber.
So the money moves faster locally. That's the velocity part.
Exactly. And then, more importantly, is the psychological modeling aspect. They demonstrate a working proof of concept to their immediate network of friends and family.
Ah, I see. So prosperity in this model is not just a mandate handed down from a legislature somewhere.
No, it is a viral phenomenon that spreads peer-to-peer.
That makes a lot of sense.
By turning your everyday digital attention into actual income, you become a catalyst for economic velocity in your own household, and then that just ripples outward.
It totally reframes the pursuit of personal income. It turns it from something purely individualistic or, selfish into an act of civic utility.
You are actively helping your community by helping yourself.
You aren't waiting for a bailout. You are actively increasing the GDP of your own ecosystem.
Exactly.
But, philosophical macroeconomics only really matter if the actual mechanics work.
Very true. Theory is just theory without execution.
And if you want to see this system in action, visit www.pnmoneymaking.com/life and business solutions. Powerful tools for success. Let's dig into the exact how.
The mechanics of it.
Right, because the text spends a significant amount of time detailing the complete erasure of barriers to entry.
Yeah, the systematic dismantling of what the text calls the startup myth is arguably the most radical element of this entire blueprint.
The startup myth, for centuries, the main barrier to engaging in commerce was the acquisition of capital.
You needed a lot of money just to start.
You needed a storefront, you needed physical inventory, a merchant account, legal incorporation, lawyers.
It was a massive hurdle.
But the text explicitly tells the user what they do not need to start this affiliate program. You don't need a business entity, you don't need a website, and crucially, you need zero upfront capital.
The implications of that are genuinely staggering if you think about it.
They really are.
Yeah.
Because the friction of starting a business has historically served as a very strict filter.
It kept the vast majority of the population completely out of the entrepreneurial class.
Exactly. Only those who already had money could make more money. But by removing the financial and technical friction, the blueprint is outlining the ultimate commoditization of distribution.
It levels the playing field entirely.
It's like being granted the rights to a massive global franchise, but without having to secure real estate or pay those crazy licensing fees.
Precisely. And we really see this elegance in what the blueprint outlines as the required technical stack.
Oh, the tech stack. This blew my mind.
It lists only 3 elements: an email account, a PayPal account to receive your commissions, and the affiliate link itself.
Wait, just those 3?
Literally just those 3. And when we analyze this from a systems perspective, the sheer brilliance lies in how it leverages pre-existing multi-billion-dollar infrastructure.
Right, because you aren't building any of that yourself.
Exactly. The authors are not asking you to build a highly secure payment gateway. They're telling you to just plug into PayPal, utilizing their decades of security infrastructure, completely for free.
You are essentially renting digital trust and technical architecture at zero cost.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
And obviously, we don't need to explain to you, the listener, what an email or a PayPal account is, but we do need to highlight the strategic genius of reducing the requirements down to tools that most people already possess.
It represents the baseline digital existence of modern life.
Right. You don't have to go learn Python, you don't have to hire a web developer, and you don't have to risk your life savings.
The runway required to take flight has basically been eliminated.
Which fundamentally alters the risk profile of the individual trying this out.
It drops the risk to absolute zero. And when financial risk is zero, the velocity at which an individual can iterate and experiment just skyrockets.
But having a frictionless setup is really only the foundation. The actual execution, the monetization phase, is where this gets highly strategic.
Yes, the distribution phase.
Because the blueprint provides a very clear distribution network strategy. It explicitly lists the platforms you should use: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, YouTube, and TikTok.
And the core strategic insight here is the deployment of access points within established attention economies.
Established attention economies, meaning places people already hang out.
Exactly. The traditional model of internet commerce involved building a proprietary website somewhere in a dark corner of the web and then spending massive amounts of capital trying to drag human attention away from other platforms over to your specific domain.
Which is incredibly hard and highly inefficient.
It's extremely inefficient.
I was thinking about this, and it's the equivalent of building a library out in the middle of a desert and then paying for billboards, hoping people drive hundreds of miles there to read a book.
That is exactly what traditional e-commerce feels like.
But the blueprint argues for the exact opposite approach. Instead of dragging people all the way to the library, you just put the book inside the coffee cup they're already holding in their hands.
You meet human attention exactly where it naturally pools.
Right. You don't try to change their behavior.
Now you intercept it. And this brings us right to the four-step conversion cycle that the text outlines. It's so elegant.
Walk us through that cycle.
It's simply, you share, someone clicks, a sale happens, you get paid.
Share, click, sale, paid. That's simple.
Yes. Mechanically, this relies on digital attribution. Your specific affiliate link contains a unique identifier tied just to you.
So the system always knows it was you.
Right. So when you place that link within the natural flow of a conversation on WhatsApp or a post on Facebook, and a peer clicks it, the digital architecture tracks that interaction perfectly through to the final transaction.
You are leveraging your existing social trust.
You are.
But here's where I really have to push back, or at least ask the question I'm sure some listeners are thinking.
Okay, let's hear it.
This all sounds incredibly efficient, but does it cross an ethical line for the user?
In what way?
Well, if everyone is suddenly looking at their WhatsApp family group or their Instagram followers as a distribution network, doesn't that fundamentally commoditize our personal relationships?
That's a valid concern.
Like, are we just turning our friendships into transactional opportunities? The text makes it sound so simple, but is there a risk of network fatigue if you just become, a human billboard?
That is a critical concern in literally any decentralized distribution model. But the blueprint actually mitigates this by heavily emphasizing the sharing of solutions.
Solutions, not just random products.
Exactly. The architecture relies on the careful curation of value, not spam. If you are just blasting irrelevant links indiscriminately to everyone you know, you will absolutely experience network fatigue.
And your friends will probably mute you.
They will mute you, and the algorithm of social trust will penalize you heavily. However, the authors frame this specifically as providing access to life and business solutions.
So the intent matters.
The intent is everything. When you curate a tool that solves a genuine problem for someone in your network, you aren't commoditizing the relationship. You're actually leveraging your trusted position to provide a helpful shortcut for them.
Ah, I see. The transaction is just a byproduct of delivering that value.
Exactly.
There's a difference between a random telemarketer calling you during dinner to sell you something you don't need versus a good friend recommending a fantastic mechanic when your car breaks down.
That's the perfect distinction. The medium might be the same, a phone call or a text, but the intent and the actual value exchange are entirely different.
And this fundamentally transforms how we have to view our own social media presence, doesn't it?
It flips the script entirely.
Because right now, for the vast majority of users out there, platforms like TikTok or Facebook are purely consumptive time sinks.
People just scroll for hours.
Right. The user is the commodity, and the platform is selling their attention to corporate advertisers.
But by integrating this conversion cycle, the blueprint is outlining a method for reclaiming the economic value of your own digital footprint.
Reclaiming your footprint.
Yeah, you transition your social media profile from a passive digital hangout space into an active distribution node.
You take the power back.
You are monetizing the everyday attention that naturally flows through your network. You capture a percentage of the value that is normally hoarded entirely by the platform itself.
Okay, so let's summarize where we are. We have a system that democratizes access. It requires zero upfront capital. It leverages multi-billion-dollar pre-existing tech infrastructure, and it monetizes the social platforms we already spend hours on every single day.
That's the structure, yes.
So, if the mechanics are this optimized and the friction is literally zero, what is the bottleneck? Why isn't everyone doing it right this second?
Well, because the final section of the blueprint addresses an obstacle that isn't technical or financial at all.
It's human.
It addresses the psychological friction of agency.
The psychological friction. The blueprint specifically calls out the human tendency to delay things, right? It highlights the trap of tomorrow.
Yes, the endless tomorrow.
The text states that people constantly tell themselves, I'll do it tomorrow, which turns into next week, and then next month. And then it just stretches on forever, while others are already earning from the exact same opportunity.
This is a really profound behavioral insight from the authors.
Why do we do that? Why do we delay when the barrier is zero?
Well, When you examine traditional business models, the massive external barriers, needing a bank loan, needing a degree, needing complex technical skills, they actually serve as a psychological shield for us.
A shield? How so?
If you fail, or honestly, if you never even start, your ego is completely protected because you can blame the system.
Oh, wow. You can just say, the bank wouldn't fund me, or I don't have the right degree.
Exactly. You have a built-in excuse. But when a system like this blueprint removes absolutely all of the external friction, it totally exposes the individual's internal resistance.
There are no gatekeepers left to blame.
Exactly. The only variable remaining in the entire equation is your own willingness to execute.
And that realization can be deeply intimidating for a lot of people.
It's terrifying for some. Procrastination, that endless deferral to tomorrow, it's essentially a defense mechanism against testing your own competence.
Because if you try and nothing happens, it's on you.
Right. The authors are brutally honest about this dynamic in the text. They recognize that the sheer simplicity of the system is precisely what causes people to hesitate.
That completely reframes the entire concept of procrastination for me. It's not just laziness.
No, it rarely is.
It's the fear of unmediated agency. It's having total control and being afraid of it. And the text makes a really vital distinction here to combat that fear. It explicitly says, this isn't about hype, it's about timing.
Yes, timing over hype.
Can you break down the difference between the two?
Hype relies on emotional manipulation, right? It tries to force you into an irrational decision through pressure. But timing is the structural recognition of a system that is already in motion.
It's just observing reality.
Exactly. The blueprint is pointing out that the infrastructure of digital commerce is functioning continuously, 24/7. Every single second you delay, transactions are occurring, and real value is being distributed through these networks without you.
It's the momentum of network effects.
Right. It's not about someone shouting at you that a specific opportunity is the greatest thing ever. It's about recognizing that the underlying mechanics of wealth generation have permanently shifted.
And you are either participating in the new physics of this economy, or you are just standing still on the platform.
Exactly. The text presents an undeniably stark dichotomy right at the end. You can either stay exactly where you are, scrolling past this information, or you can move.
Act and see what happens.
It is a challenge to conduct a zero-risk experiment on your own potential. The authors are directly asking the reader to confront their own inertia.
Because there's nothing else in the way.
Since the cost of failure is technically zero, the refusal to act is entirely a product of psychological hesitation.
We have covered massive ground today. Just to recap, we've been deconstructing a blueprint that fundamentally alters how we view effort, access, and income.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
We started by dismantling that old industrial age myth of waiting your turn, replacing it with the necessity of structural access.
And then we analyzed the macroeconomic implications of that, how localized, bottom-up prosperity driven by individual action can actually change communities.
Right, and how the complete removal of startup friction totally commoditizes digital distribution.
We explored the mechanics of digital attribution, too, how inserting a simple link into our everyday social networks transforms us from the product being sold into the node that's actually capturing value.
And finally, we confronted the psychological friction of agency, that tough realization that when all the excuses are removed, our success or failure rests entirely in our own hands.
It's a lot to process, but it's incredibly empowering.
It really is. So as we conclude this deep dive, do you have a final provocative thought for the listener to sort of mull over?
I do. I want you to consider the implications of this frictionless economy on your daily habits.
Okay.
If the technological and financial barriers to earning have been entirely eradicated, then the only remaining bottleneck to your prosperity is your own internal resistance. So think about the hundreds of times you will open a social media app this week.
Hundreds of times, easily.
What would fundamentally shift in your economic reality if you treated your very next post not as a fleeting moment of passive consumption, but as a deliberate act of creation? What if you utilize that attention to build an asset rather than just passing the time?
That is the structural shift the blueprint is asking you to make. Visit www.pnmoneymaking.com/life and business solutions, powerful tools for success.
Thank you for visiting www.pnmoneymaking.com/life and business solutions, powerful tools for success.